All right, here we go. It is time to get started with another edition of the Sports Rush. Hey, look who's here. Adam is back. What's up, brother?
Hey, glad to be back. Glad to be back here doing the sports rush again, man. It feels good.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to be doing this on Saturday. It's like trying to kick back and chill and say, "Oh man, it's time to get going live." But we're going to give it another go. It's a big weekend because it is the battle for state pride. And I see you're doing your job. You've got your tin cap shirt on.
Yes, sir.
I've got some news today coming from the Mastodons. There's some
Ooh.
more. Yeah, there's some breaking news happening with the Mastodons today. We'll talk about. But when we get back talking about state pride, that with this weekend it is happening, people. It's the border war between Ohio and Indiana because you've got the Pacers ready to get it on with the Cleveland Cavaliers as the Pacers have earned the ticket to take on the number one seed in the East. And then you've got the Comets already in battle against the Toledo Walleye. Tough one last night. We'll talk a little more about that. Also, Tin Caps just beaten up on Dayton so far this week. They've got two more games left in their series tonight and tomorrow. And so it's been a good week so far for the Tin Caps out of Parkview Field. Another game coming up tonight at 6:35. Tomorrow, the series wraps up with a 105 first pitch. And of course, as always, it is a autograph Sunday where you can get autographs. And I'll just tell you, Leo DeVries is the deal. Earlier today, I had a chance to do a high school game this morning with Josh Van Meter. What a fun guy just to hang out with for a couple of hours. But Josh asked me during one of the commercial breaks, is Leo DeVries really the real deal? I said, this guy is unreal. 18 years old, the things that he is doing. Hit for the cycle a week ago. And then earlier this week, followed it up on Tuesday. Now remember, Monday he is named the Midwest League Player of the Week. And then he comes out on Tuesday and he goes, what was it, 3 for 3
Yep.
with a double, a single, and a home run. And he comes to bat in the bottom of the eighth inning with a chance to do a cycle again. Unreal to have that opportunity. And unfortunately, I think it was a four-pitch walk, so he didn't have his chance to get his triple,
Yes.
which he did the week before. He had the triple on the last at bat, and I think there's no better way to get a cycle than to have the triple in your last at bat and somehow find your way to a triple. I mean, if all you got to do is get a base hit, get a single because you've already got the double, triple, and homer covered. That's different. That's a different cycle. When you come up your last at bat in a ball game and you need a triple, and he delivered it, and I mean that was so much fun. But starts the series six for his first eight, couple of doubles, home run. I mean the guy is just electric, and he's the real deal. He's heading to the show at some point. I mean, barring a some kind of a catastrophe, this guy's going to be in the show probably within a couple of years. And if you want to get out and see him, now is the time. He's with the Tin Caps. We don't know how long that's going to last. Probably not as long as we'd like it to last. But come on out and get this guy's autograph. Tomorrow you'll have your chance.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It's just been electric having him here at Parkview Field and with the Tin Caps in general. That cycle was absolutely amazing. And you said it. He did have that chance to go for the cycle on Tuesday. But you know what? I really appreciate the fact that he didn't, go for a big hit. He didn't try to, get it out to a corner of the outfield. He had plate discipline and he took a walk. So you know what? Credit to him. That shows real maturity at the plate, not hunting that cycle. But like you said, I mean, that's going to be an autograph that you're going to want to get pretty soon while he's here at Parkview Field. I'll put my record on the line. I know previously I said that Jackson Merrill is an autograph that you're going to want to get out at Parkview Field. It's going to be worth something in the future. I'm going to take credit on being right on that one, and I think I'm going to put DeVries on that list as well. You're going to want to grab that autograph.
Man, you've got some hot takes, man.
Hey, I do what I can to
Those
bring
are
the
hot. You
fire.
you go way out there on the limb when you're making your takes. It's like I think I'm going to project that the number one prospect in the Padres system is going to be pretty good someday.
Hey, you gotta know when to fold them and when to hold them.
All right, so when you look at the Tin Caps, they have taken the first four games in this series, and this offense has come to life. And you've got guys like Brendan Durfee, who all of a sudden is hitting the baseball like it's a beach ball. He's just barreling up baseballs and driving them all over the ballpark. Butterworth, Brendan Butterworth is hitting the ball well. You really I mean, that's the thing. There's no weaknesses. I mean, the game winning rally in last night's contest came from the bottom of the order. The number 8 and 9 guys, Linares and Sanabria, who hardly ever play, and they ended up being the guys that really delivered in the clutch and helped the Tin Caps get that win last night. So it's been a fun week. We get a lot of runs being scored. You get great pitching from guys like Manuel Pinales and earlier this week, Tyler Morgan with three perfect innings, and they're doing it all right now, and they're kind of taking advantage of a team that's not one of the best teams in the league right now. And I don't want to say anything that ends up on a whiteboard somewhere, but Dayton is not West Michigan. West Michigan's loaded with talent, loaded with prospects. Dayton's not in that same situation, but the Tin Caps are taking advantage. They're pounding the ball around. They're pitching well. It's been a fun week to be at the ballpark so far, but still 2 games left in this series.
Yeah, and you said it. Credit to the pitching and credit to the bullpen, who has been absolutely lights out for the Tin Caps. I mean, even when the offense has struggled a little bit, it feels like you can always count on them to come back in these recent games. And then the pitching has been able to hold those leads that the offense has gotten back. So it's just all been working out so far. And like you said, it's not against one of the top teams in the Midwest League, but it's still good to see that. And I know it feels good for the team. It's good development too.
All right, let's talk about the NBA. That's your baby. I know you love the NBA. I'm
Oh man.
probably a little more of a college basketball guy, and I've got some college basketball news. We're going to talk to Dylan Sin from the Journal Gazette coming up here in just a few, and we'll talk about Indiana. They started with nothing. The cupboard was completely bare. They got handed some money and say, "Here, go shop for groceries." And what kind of food are they getting? Are they getting the generic products or are they getting some name brand good stuff? And that's what we're going to talk to Dylan Sin about and just ask how has Darian DeVries done in assembling this roster? How talented is it? And does it fit? Are these pieces going to fit? Mike Woodson couldn't have put a puzzle together to save his life because that those pieces they did not fit at all. He wanted to win the press conference, not win basketball games. So he went out and got all the guys with a bunch of stars. And you know why? Because it made it easier for him so he could go golf and smoke cigars and drink some bourbon. I mean, it's going to be DeVries that has to build and mold this group together. And I guess the question is, do the pieces fit? And because I don't think you can always measure the talent, you've got to measure the compatibility and also the flexibility and the versatility. If a guy gets hurt, are they going to be able to overcome that loss? And so we'll talk to Dylan Sin a little bit about what we see, not just who the 10 guys are that they've picked up from the portal, but how do they fit and are there still holes that they're going to have to fill? And Ellen, I got to ask Dylan Sin, what is the real deal with this Anthony Leal talk? Have you heard this?
Mm. No, what's going on?
All of a sudden, it's Anthony Leal wants to come back and play another year.
Hmm.
And he believes because he had a year where he was hurt and only played, I think, 11 games, that he might have a case with the NCAA and whether he has actually applied to get the medical red shirt waiver, whatever it is. We're waiting on Luke Goody, and right now I don't know if that looks good because if it's taken this long, I'm not sure it's going to be a positive outcome. But uh, apparently, Anthony Leal, this is the I don't know if it's a rumor or a report. That's why we're going to ask the man himself and see if he can break it down. But would Anthony Leal actually possibly be a comeback player for the Indiana Hoosiers? Because right now, guys returning from last year, zero, zero,
Zilch.
nothing,
Nothing.
nothing. I
Yeah.
mean, you could have just picked up the 5 guys playing at the Y and ended up with the familiarity that we have with this roster. Although Tucker DeVries, I think, is a name that most college basketball fans are familiar with because he's had a pretty good career at Drake and had a good start at West Virginia before he ended up hurting his shoulder and being out for the rest of the year. But we'll talk to Dylan Sin coming up here in a couple of minutes. But let's talk NBA,
Keep
Pacers,
going.
Cavaliers. You've been waiting. Another battle, the state of Indiana versus the state of Ohio. We've also got one in hockey we'll talk about. But Cleveland started so hot this season. And I know, Adam, you and I on the show, we talked about, okay, eventually water will find its level and they're going to come back down. Boston will eventually overtake them for the number one spot. Cleveland never gave up that number one spot. They've been good throughout the year, and they've had two long winning streaks. This is a legit team that causes a lot of problems for opponents, and it will cause some problems for the Pacers. But in this matchup, you've got a deep team in the Indiana Pacers against a team that's gotten 5 or 6 guys that have played really well. Donovan Mitchell, he's kind of the stud. He's the best of the group. But Cleveland, tell me your take on the Cavaliers and their success this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's they've backed it up. It's like you said, we had a lot of conversations about whether this was just an early season flurry, but it continued to be a flurry throughout the rest of the regular season, and they ended up with the top seed, like you said. So, and then they go into this series against Miami, and I mean, not that Miami is the top of the league or anything; they were the bottom seed of the Eastern Conference, but it was a one sided series. Cleveland swept the game by a combined 122 points, which is the most in NBA playoff history. So it just goes to show that offense, if it gets going, can steamroll almost anybody in the league. So Pacers are going to be in a little bit of trouble here. We're going to see that defense have to step up and not let that Cavaliers offense get rolling. An important little bit of tidbit of information that came across about 2 hours ago, Darius Garland's status is up in the air for Sunday's game due to a toe injury. So we'll see what's going on with that, but that could be a huge loss. He's, a 20-point per game player. So we'll see. But if Darius Garland is healthy, I got to give the edge in game one to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
What are you more concerned about? The front court matchup where Cleveland can really go after the glass. They've got a couple of big guys that will get in there and rebound. Or are you concerned about the guard matchup where the Pacers may have a better defensive matchup with Nemhard and Neesmith? I mean, I think they can kind of match up a little on the perimeter guys, but Turner and Siakam have to be good. Not just about scoring points. It's about keeping Cleveland off the glass, not getting into foul trouble. I don't know which is more important, the guard play or the front court play for the Indiana Pacers in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have to go with the big men matchup on this one, too. It's going to be interesting seeing how Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam match up with Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen down in the paint. Like you said, they're going to have to stop that duo, and that's going to be a tough task for that team. We'll see. Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam, they can't get stretched out too much because if there's one outside on the line, there might be still one in the paint. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think that with Halliburton and Mitchell, I think the backcourt kind of evens itself out a little bit. But like you said, I think Siakam and Miles against Mobley and Allen, it could be a key matchup to look at in the series.
By the way, as we do this show, the Fever and the Washington Mystics are playing a preseason. I'm not sure if you call it a preseason or an exhibition. I'm not exactly sure the exact title that we should give this because both apply here. It's preseason and essentially it's exhibition. I know tomorrow's Fever game is definitely exhibition because they're playing the Brazilian national team. But can you believe in a preseason game they're going overtime? The fun
Wow.
thing. The fun thing is these two teams have really battled like it's a regular season game, and it's been an entertaining watch today. So it's kind of fun to see. But anyway, the bottom line is we've been watching this, and they're going overtime, tied at 71 down in Indy. All right, so What do you like? Do you have any bold prediction for us? Pacers. I will tell you my prediction. There's something magical in Indianapolis. There's something magical with the team playing at Gatebridge. I think the experience that the Pacers gained a year ago and the fact that they were challenged a little bit more in the first round. Now, still was pretty much a 4-1 blowout. Pacers probably should have won all 5 games. They had a horrible quarter against Milwaukee in the game they lost. I'm going with the Pacers to win this series. I
Wow.
I I think the advantage in coaching. I think the fact that the Pacers are deeper, because you're already talking that Cleveland might have an injury issue. I'm going to go with the Pacers, and I'm going to go with the Pacers in 6
Wow.
because I don't know that the Pacers can win a 7th game in Cleveland. I might have to flip flop. If I
Ooh.
if we get to game 7, I'm going to burn this tape and I'm going to come out with a new prediction. No, seriously, I feel like the Pacers, they just have something magical when they're playing at home. I think they're going to be really tough to beat. They beat Cleveland 3 out of 4. Yeah, the little asterisk is that Cleveland didn't play a lot of their starters in a couple of those games. But I'm going
But
on the record, man.
put it on
I'm
wax.
going I'm going on YouTube and X and Facebook or whatever, wherever this video is ending up.
Somewhere
I
on the
am
internet.
I am saying Pacers in 6. Give me something, Adam. You're the NBA guy. I just proved it that I'm not. No, really. Go ahead. Give us something.
Uh Cavaliers in 7.
Okay, that's a good time to transition to our guests.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we gotta bring in our next guest, and I got to figure out how this all works because we haven't had the opportunity to bring in a new guest yet. So I'm going to see if this actually works. Hey, look at there! Oh man, I got a future in television production. Look at that. Dylan's here, and I think he's actually hooked up. I think technology is my friend for the first time in my life. Dylan, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Can you hear me? Because I can hear you. Looks like we're doing okay.
I got you perfectly, man. I'm glad to have you. Now I'm going to try something else kind of tricky here. Look at this little fancy move. How about that
Whoa.
little shuffle? It's like the shell game. Where will Dylan end up? But I I'm still learning this, Dylan.
We're
We're
gonna
we're
get there. We're,
still
we're
we're
gonna
still
figure
in
it
the infancy stages of
out.
trying to get this thing right. But
I feel like the Brady Bunch or something.
yeah, Dylan is the busiest man in sports media. I'll say that because goes everywhere. Um, I mean, he's got a 7 day a week schedule generally. If he's not at a game, he's in the office. We were asking Vicky the other day when she was at a Tin Caps game, "Where's Dylan?" "Oh, he's working in the office." It's like, dude, you gotta get a guy a day off. He drives all over half the Midwest covering Purdue or Notre Dame or IU, and got to give him a break once in a while. And so, what do we do when he's got a Saturday afternoon to relax? We have him come on our show. Yeah, we're real nice. Dylan, a lot of things to cover with you. We were just talking about the Tin Caps because we're talking about this week being the border war, Indiana versus Ohio. And so far, we have covered the Tin Caps Dayton series, which has been all Tin Caps. We've talked about the Pacers and Cavaliers. Tin Caps have played a different brand of baseball this week. They've been hitting the ball. Pitching has been pretty solid for them all year. It's been exceptional here at a few of the games against Dayton. But the offense, if they can score runs like this, they got a chance to do some special things.
Yeah, I mean it's been really impressive. Obviously, the headliner is Leo DeVries. There's no way around that. He had 14 plate appearances in his first 3 games in this series and was retired twice. So he's really really good. But it's not just him. I think that's that kind of the biggest thing is they're getting production up and down the lineup. Last night, the winning hit in a 2-1 victory was by the number 9 hitter in the order, Jose Sanabria. So they are getting production from everywhere. They've scored 30 runs in the 4 games this series, 28 in the first 3. So they're on a 5-game winning streak. The vibes are good at Parkview Field right now.
So let's talk about Indiana basketball. That's been kind of the storyline since the end of the college season because Mike Woodson steps down. Wink, wink. And Indiana has to go find a new coach. First of all, I want to go back to that because we haven't really taken a deep dive into the hiring of Darian DeVries. When did Indiana decide DeVries was going to be the guy as we go from one DeVries to another? When did Indiana decide that Darian DeVries was their target to become the next coach? Because there's been some reports and speculation that this has been going on for some time. What's your best guess?
Yeah, I know some of that speculation is from West Virginia people who are a little bit, there's a little bit of sour grapes there that Tucker DeVries sat out the end of the season, that maybe he could have come back, and that they were kind of holding him out so that he could play for IU this year. I don't really put any stock into that. I have not heard that from anyone on the Indiana side. The kind of genesis for some of that speculation is that Scott Dolson talked in DeVries' introductory press conference that he saw West Virginia play in the Battle for Atlantis in the Bahamas this year, where Indiana also was, and he was just extraordinarily impressed by how hard that team plays. And so he kind of kept DeVries in the back of his mind, but there's no indication there was any contact between them at that point. There was no indication, there wasn't any indication yet at that point that IU was going to be in the market for a coach, because if you'll recall, we were sitting here last offseason and Indiana seemed to have patched most of the holes that it had in the roster. And it seemed like they were probably going to be pretty good this past year under Mike Woodson, and that would have meant they wouldn't have needed a new coach. So I don't think it was really until December or January when they decided they probably were going to move on for sure. And then they probably started reaching out behind the scenes at some point around then, maybe in February, and got to DeVries. But I don't think there's any truth to the rumor that this was a season-long or even kind of months-long project. I think it came together in the last couple of weeks there.
And you brought up a point about last year. We looked at the roster and thought it was tons of talent, but it never gelled. It just didn't work. The two bigs on the court at the same time never turned out to be the best thing for Indiana. And so what we were talking about earlier, Adam and I were saying, with Indiana, you look at the roster, and it may not be a bunch of 4 and 5-star guys. We've got some talent. I don't think this roster, I don't know, I'll let you answer it, but I'm not sure this roster is more talented than last year's roster. But Mike Woodson couldn't put a puzzle together to save his life. It just he never was able to make that roster fit. So I guess the question for you, what do you think about the overall roster construction and finding pieces that seem to be potential pieces that fit together for Indiana?
Yeah, you can see going into the roster building process, Darren DeVries had a plan. He had a vision of what he wanted this team to look like. He wanted it to be perimeter oriented. He wanted it to be able to shoot the ball. He wanted it to be fast, and he wanted it to be able to defend. I think that he was able to do that, and I like that. Well, the one thing I like about this roster more than anything else is how much redundancy there is. There's a lot of guys who can do a lot of different things, and so there's going to be depth on this team. I think there's going to be position battles. First of all, we really don't know exactly who's going to get a ton of minutes on this team. I think we can assume that Lamar Wilkerson is going to get a lot of minutes, and we can assume that Reed Bailey is going to get a lot of minutes, and then obviously Tucker DeVries. Those 3 are probably your foundational pieces, and then beyond that, it's going to be filling in with whomever ends up working out. To me, the question that I have about this roster is on defense, especially down low, because they don't have anyone who can protect the rim except maybe Sam Alexis from Florida, and he doesn't seem like a big minute guy to me. Maybe he will be, I don't know. But I am concerned about defense, especially down low, because this is a problem we saw with Purdue last year, right? We saw Purdue struggle for a lot of the season, and they were still winning games. They were still doing okay, but they couldn't protect the rim, and it was a problem even though the rest of the pieces fit together pretty well. So I like the roster. I like where they're at right now. I think they'll be a pretty good team. I don't know if I would pick them near the top of the Big Ten yet because they do have that one glaring question mark to me.
Okay, so that one glaring question mark when you talk about the rim protector, uh, what what type? I mean, this roster. It, what type of roster do you see it being? Is it 3-point shooting? Is it perimeter defense? Is it full court defense? When you say that Coach DeVries had an idea of what type of roster he wanted to assemble, what type of roster did he assemble?
Yeah, I think it is going to be a team that is predicated number one on ball movement and number two on shooting, especially on offense, because they have two guys in Tatum Connerway from Troy and Connor Enright from DePaul, who were both in the top 20 in the country in assist rate last year. So you're going to have those guys creating offense for you, and I think and when you have those guys on the court together, which I think will be relatively often, you're going to be able to create a lot of shots, do a lot of pick and roll stuff with Bailey, some pick and pop stuff. And I think the basic point of the offense is going to be we are going to move the ball, we are going to find the open man, and we are going to shoot the heck out of it. That is generally seems to me to be the plan. On defense, I still have some questions. I think that Connerway is the key piece of this defense for me. I've kind of compared him to Ace Baldwin from Penn State, who they brought in from the transfer portal when they brought in a new coach. Connerway is that guy who can be, to borrow a phrase from Mike Woodson, the head of the snake. Right, he is going to guard the other team's best perimeter scorer night in and night out. He's going to average 2.5 steals, and he's going to be really, really effective in getting you out on the break. And so I think that he's really important. But beyond that, I have questions about the defensive structure and how they're going to go about it because some of these guys have question marks about their defensive ability. Reed Bailey was not a good rim protector despite being 6'11". Wilkerson has admitted that he is not a great defender and he is working on that this offseason. That's kind of the next step in his growth coming from Sam Houston State. So I have questions on defense, but I think they're going to try to outscore a lot of teams. I think this is going to be a fast-paced team that's going to win some games 95-90, if I had to guess.
This kind of similar to what Wisconsin did in putting the roster together this past season. Do you see similarities?
I can see where you would make that comparison. Yes, and I think that there's a decent chance they kind of have a similar type season where they're good. They have some good wins. They end up getting a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament or something like that, and you can kind of see the vision for going forward. I don't think that that's a bad comparison at all, frankly.
Josh Harris is the most recent name to join in with this Hoosier squad. And what role did he fill? Where was the void, and what do you expect out of Josh Harris?
Well, so it's interesting because Harris is a guy that I'm actually really excited about going forward. The question to me is how big of a role he's going to have this year. He is a rebounder, he is a wing defender, and he can score off the dribble. He's not much of a shooter yet, but he might be. But the thing that's most important to me about him is that he has 3 years of eligibility left. Right, like this is a guy who's going to help not only this season, but then in the future for you. He can be kind of a seventh, eighth, ninth man this season, and then in 2 years be your main guy. And so I think that basically what they tried to do with their last couple of roster spots after they filled out the main rotation was go get some guys with 2 and 3 years of eligibility left and see if you can build for the future at the same time. And I think Harris is kind of the main piece of that to me. He is a guy that is going to help this year to some extent, probably as a rebounder because he's a really, really good rebounder, but more in the future where I can see him being a main scorer for like a year 2 or year 3 DeVries team.
All right, we've got to get to the rumors. We brought this up earlier that it's circulating out there that Anthony Leal might come back for another season of Indiana basketball. We can't really figure out where this is coming from because it seems to have surfaced out of nowhere. Is it out of nowhere? Is it one of those, I always say that social media is full of reports and rumors. And the first thing you've got to do is figure out which is which. So what do we know about the Anthony Leal situation and the stories that are out there that he might be seeking a return to Indiana?
Yeah, I will say right now those are more rumors than reports to me, but I have obviously heard those as well. Here's what I will say about Anthony Leal, because there are people who have kind of dismissed it out of hand as saying, well, he's out of eligibility. He has no eligibility left. That doesn't make any sense. But if you look at what he did with Indiana during the 2022-23 season, his junior year, he played 11 games. Right now, he played in the NCAA tournament. He played against Kent State that year. He played late in the year. So, but 11 games is underneath the 30% threshold for a redshirt year. And so basically, if Anthony Leal did decide he wanted to come back to Indiana for another year, he would be making the same argument to the NCAA that Luke Goody is, right? Now, there was no injury involved with Anthony Leal. He just wasn't really part of the rotation that year. So it might be a little bit different, but I don't know how much that would really matter for the NCAA because theoretically, they both played fewer than the number of games that is their threshold for a redshirt. Their argument is it shouldn't matter when in the year they played those games. They played fewer than the number of games. It doesn't matter for a football player, you know. If they played 4 games at the end of the year, it doesn't matter whether they played 4 games at the beginning of the year. So that would be the argument. It's the same argument that Luke Goody is making. So the argument would be, well, if you take Luke, you should take me too. And so that seems to me that would be the argument. And I don't really see if the NCAA is receptive to one, I would expect them to be receptive to both. And there are 2 roster spots left for Indiana right now. So
I'm kind of of the thought process that the longer it takes, the worse the news ultimately will be for Luke Goody. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I felt that way as well because I've tried to look back and I think we kind of knew that Xavier Johnson was coming back by this time in the calendar a couple of years ago, and the fact that we haven't heard from Luke Goody yet is a little bit concerning. There are obviously rumors out there that he is trending toward being approved. Again, those are rumors, not reports. If you want to have that dichotomy, but I do think my question is, okay, if they're going to approve him, why haven't they done it already? And there's really not a whole lot to check into. It's just a question of whether you want that to be the new norm, where the 30% can be any time in the year versus only at the beginning. So I'm interested in that. I do think that there's 2 roster spots left. Indiana still seems to think that there is an opportunity for them to get these guys, but the NCAA has to make that stamp.
Dylan, I want to talk to you a little bit about Indiana football and how they follow up the dream season from a year ago, which we all know was influenced, and we can't deny it even if you're an Indiana fan. It was influenced by a fairly easy schedule, which is certainly not the case this upcoming season. How does Indiana follow it up, and what's the gauge or measurement to determine whether it's a good season for IU? Should the expectations be to repeat it, or is there a lower bar because you do face a tougher schedule? And what have you seen from the Hoosiers so far this spring?
Yeah, I think it's going to be ultimately determined by how tough that schedule ends up being, right? They have to go on the road to Iowa. They have to play Illinois. Those teams are both expected to be pretty good, but we don't know for sure. So if those teams end up being pretty good and you take one of those games and you go like 9-3, I think that's absolutely a success. Even if you don't make the playoff again, I think that's 100% successful season. The bar cannot be the college football playoff for Indiana. I know that they went in the first year under Chris Signetti. I understand that. I know they are throwing some serious money around right now, but that cannot be the bar for an Indiana football fan. I am telling you this as someone who is an alumnus who has seen this program. If you go 8-4 this year and you lose to Illinois, Iowa, Penn State, and Oregon, but you win the rest of your games, that also is a successful season. I'm saying that right now. It is one of those things where you like last year was a lot of lightning in the bottle, and it was a very special season. It really was. And I am not trying to take away anything from last season because that team was darn good, and I know the schedule was not great, but they were darn good, and they deserve to be in that playoff. But you cannot take that as the measurement of success going forward. So that said, I do think this year's team is going to be a good team. I think that they have addressed the holes they had in the roster from guys departing. They have some genuine stars back, and I think they will be good again. I think if you take one of those 4 games, one of the big 4 that you're looking at the beginning of the season, Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, Illinois, one of those 4, you win that, and then you win the rest, and you go 9-3. That to me would be an A season. Anything beyond that's A plus. I think that would be an A season.
Is Notre Dame as good, better, or worse than a year ago?
I think they're about the same, and I don't mean
that's such a cop out. Come on.
Well, and here's what I'm going to say. I don't think they go.
That's pretty good too. That's really
it is
good.
Pretty good. Yes. I worry about defensive tackle. because they are losing Howard Cross and Riley Mills, and that's tough. But they did fill those spots with guys who they feel can help them. Jared Dawson from Louisville is a name you're going to hear a lot. Transfer portal pickup, who is a very good player. So that's something that they can say, hey, we at least filled the hole. The question to me, obviously, is the quarterback. That's the easy question, right? Riley Leonard wasn't a great quarterback, but he was exactly what that Notre Dame team needed to be successful. And so can either Kenny Minchie or CJ Carr recreate that? I don't know. So my guess is that they are, generally speaking, about as talented as they were last year, and that they probably don't go quite as far in the playoff. I think getting back to the playoff is a reasonable expectation, however, for this team.
I've got to ask you, you brought it up, Riley Leonard. I thought last year that he showed that he's a good college quarterback, but he lacks some of the skills necessary to be an NFL quarterback. The Colts took him. Are you surprised by that? Did you think he was good enough to be drafted?
I think drafting him in the 6th round, I think, was just fine to me. Personally, I would have drafted Curtis Rourke over him, but I understand drafting him in a vacuum in the 6th round. I think as a guy, first of all, he's going to be their 3rd string quarterback more than likely. That's just a guy you want to be a good locker room guy, and Riley Leonard is a really good locker room guy. He's, by all accounts, from everything we heard. So there's that. But also, I think that he brings a skill set that can be successful as a kind of part-time guy in the NFL, where he's able to run the ball very well. He's tough. He reads coverages okay. The only problem I had with him last season was that he was not particularly willing to throw the ball down the field. And in the NFL, you have to be able to do that at least a little bit, but he has the arm to do it, and he's going to put his body in harm's way for the team. So I think that having a guy like that as your 3rd string quarterback, I think is perfectly defensible. And I think that there's a real chance that he gets on the field at some point for the Colts and does some positive things.
All right, Dylan, we'll let you get to the horse racing because I know you've got a big stack of cash on some of these horses,
of course.
Right? Yeah, of course.
That's right. I bet the life savings on journalism, so we're going to see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll either be looking at Dylan with a background of his home office or a background of the back seat of his car, depending on how tonight goes. Dylan, have a great time. We're going to see you at the ballpark tonight.
I will be there. Looking forward to it.
All right, cool. Dylan Sid joining us, and now the fun part is removing Dylan from the scene. Hey, see, it's not that bad. I got it figured out. See, it just works with a couple of quick flicks of the button.
Look at that. Look at that.
I could multitask here. I could talk and be a producer at the same time. Big thanks to Dylan Sin for joining us here on our Saturday Sports Rush. Now, this is an important part of the program. This might be the most important part of the program. If you're watching us, here's what you have to do. You have to subscribe because we need to build subscribers. We're playing the YouTube algorithm game is what we're doing. And when you get started, that's the only way you can build a base is to play the algorithm game. And that is everybody click subscribe. Everybody make sure you click the like button because those two things go very far with the algorithm and trying to help us build our channel. Also, when you come back and you see us posting additional channels, make sure you give us the thumbs up and all that because the amount of likes we get, the amount of subscriptions that we get, those go a long way. So we really appreciate your support of the channel. It's what will keep us going here on Saturdays. And make sure you do that for us. And by the way, did you notice my product placement? On radio, I tried for a long time to get some kind of a little deal. And all I'll say
I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just happen to have a little drink of choice here. And inquiries, my DMs are open.
Hit them up.
If anybody wants to, I've been very loyal to this product for a very long time.
I can vouch.
Yeah. I cannot go to a broadcast without one of these in my bag. I will just tell you right now. I showed up this morning. It's like 50 degrees. It's blowing. It's cold. But gosh darn it, 8:15 in the morning, and I've got one of these ready to go.
Gotta have it. Hit them up for that sponsorship. You know who you are.
By the way, how much fun was it having Josh Van Meter this morning?
Oh, that was fantastic. Oh man, what a great baseball mind to get in the booth there with you.
we had we had some fun. We had a couple of little jabs.
Hey,
Talking about how difficult he mentioned how difficult it was to come off the bench cold and have that one at bat where you got to step in and deliver. And I'm like, well, anybody would know it would be you because that was basically how you were sustaining your career was
oh, geez.
coming in and getting those occasional pinch hits. But we had some fun with him. But he did the game this morning with Snyder and Carroll, and I think maybe some people were a little mildly surprised. The Carroll Chargers got a win over Snyder
Yeah.
in game one of the doubleheader. I didn't see what happened in game two. I can't give you this update, though.
What do you
See,
got?
this is the great thing about doing the show live is we get live updates along the way. The Fever did get the victory in overtime.
All
So
right.
they pick up the win. Tomorrow they got the big Caitlin Clark homecoming. Caitlin Clark did not play today. They kept
Yeah.
her out more or less just a precaution. When your superstar has anything, you just say, this game's preseason. It doesn't matter. Why would we risk them during a preseason game?
Yeah. And
Well, part of why you would do it is because tomorrow you're probably
yeah,
going to have to do it. You have to put her on the court tomorrow.
you do. It's kind of the rule, I think, if you go play there.
All right, let's see here.
Let's
I've
see.
lost my notes. We've got to get
Mastodon's
back
news?
to I actually did do some notes. Oh, Comets.
Comets.
Oh, game two is coming up tonight. Not last night. I feel like, man, in hindsight, I guess the Comets can still bounce back, but you got to steal a road game. You know how tough it's going to be to steal a road game in Toledo. Toledo has home ice advantage. Last night, it was right there. All you got to do is grab it, and the Comets didn't get it done. They had the opportunity. They were ahead 4-3. Boom, boom, two quick goals, end of the second period, and then Toledo went into protection mode in that third period, and the Comets couldn't strike. 5-4 final. Toledo wins it. Now game two tonight, but I'm still kind of bummed about game one. I don't know if that juiced the Comets or made the Comets fans believe, but I'm disappointed because you always look for that game you can steal on the other team's ice when you don't have home ice advantage, and I think the Comets let Toledo get away with one last night.
Yeah, especially game one. It feels like you can take a lot of momentum on the series if you can get game one on the road in your pocket. But yeah, I mean, those two quick goals at the end of the second period really did them in. I know in the third period, pretty late, that the Comets had a goal that went to review. That was then called back. They said the puck didn't cross the line. Yeah, showed some fight there in the third, down a goal, but needed a little bit more to steal that first game.
It's interesting watching the highlights back and seeing highlights of almost every goal that was scored in the game. And it's amazing how space becomes so valuable in the playoffs because everybody wants to take away space. They want to take away the space you're trying to gain an advantage in, whether that's high slot, whether that's near the circle, whatever that space might be. And it seemed like every goal, the other team allowed space. I think what's going to happen tonight is everybody's going to have a chance to have an afternoon film session today. They're going to review all those areas of the ice where they allowed too much space. And you know what's going to, tonight, it's going to be like a 2-1 game.
A lot
Last night,
tighter. Yeah,
everybody was scoring goals, right?
right.
Now you're going to say, okay, enough of that. That's not playoff hockey. We've got to revise things a little bit. Here's where we were getting hurt in our defensive end, and all of a sudden you're going to have a 2-1 battle. I hope it's 2-1 because if it ends up being one-sided, I don't think it's the Comets that are going to be on the good side of it. But can the Comets even it up? Because remember, they come back home for 3 games. If they can come home for 3 straight games with a victory out of these first 2, they got a chance, Adam, to not have to make another trip to Toledo. How about that?
That would be huge, but got to get it done in Toledo.
All right, got some big news, Adam. You probably
Yeah.
don't even know about this because we haven't spoke because neither one of us really want to talk to each other during the week. No, I'm kidding. The Mastodons. I said I was going to give you a good Mastodon story.
Right. Let's hear it.
Mastodons finally get a big man out of the portal. It's taken a little while, longer than I was comfortable with. I don't know how the coaches felt, but I'm like, come on, guys, give us something. We love these guards because the guards have always been kind of the key to the Mastodons offense. Fast pace, 3-point shooters. But I didn't like last year that we were near the bottom 20 in the NCAA in rebounding. They got 6'8", Darius Duffy, a big out of Milwaukee. It is, as some would put it, I think one of the bloggers for the Horizon League said it's Horizon on Horizon crime because the Mastodons went and got a guy from one of the conference opponents. They went and got from Milwaukee Darius Duffy. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. I think he's a grad student. So Darius Duffy, 6'8", big. I think he's 6'8", about 240, 250. I mean, he's a big. He is going to be joining the Mastodons, and so that makes me feel a lot better. They
I'm
still
glad.
they still need to find that 6'6", 6'7" guy that can play the four or be a big three or maybe even in critical situations cover the five against a smaller lineup. But they before they got this guy, they kind of jumped from 6'2" up to 6'8". Now they got a 6'8" big that joins D'Angelo Elise, but they need another guy that can provide some frontline support. They got one scholarship still remaining, so we'll see where that one goes. But good news that just came down today about Darius Duffy. All right, final thought. Got to send out a big congratulations. It became public Friday. I know there's not been any kind of formal announcement from the Tin Caps, but we're not sharing any kind of trade secrets here to let everyone know that John Nolan, especially since he just did his first game, John Nolan, longtime broadcaster here in Fort Wayne, I think 10 or 11 years, he's been broadcasting sports here locally, including primarily with the Tin Caps. He has been named as the play-by-play radio voice of the Indiana Fever.
That's huge, man. That's so awesome.
I don't know who he competed with for that job, but that's a pretty big gig when the Indiana Fever have the lineup that they have, and they've got the most popular player on the planet. And I'm not even going to say popular women's basketball player. I truly believe right now, Caitlin Clark is not just the face of the WNBA. Caitlin Clark is the face of basketball. Give me a bigger star in basketball than Caitlin Clark, what is vastly growing to be worldwide.
Yeah, I was gonna say growing. I mean, you think of the stars of the NBA. A lot of them are on the decline of their careers. You think about LeBron James. You think about Steph Curry. They're all getting up there in age. And as far as this new era of basketball, as far as all of the young basketball players out there, all the kids out there just playing on the court and watching on TV, it's hard to argue that it's not Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark is the face of basketball. John Nolan is now the voice of Caitlin Clark.
That's awesome. Huge congratulations to John.
Very happy to see this happen. I know this is not a knock against Fort Wayne. It's just the opportunities that are out there are bigger and better in some of the other markets. And the fact that he was able to find something very close to Fort Wayne that gives him a year round opportunity. I'm sure he'll do plenty of things with the Fever as far as public relations and community events. He is going to be he's going to be the original TV play-by-play man for the Noblesville Boom,
Ah,
the former Mad Ants team.
gotcha.
He will be continuing in that role. He actually was the TV play-by-play voice for the Mad Ants and has done that even after they moved down to the Indianapolis area. But Noblesville is going to begin play this upcoming season in November, and John Nolan told me that he is going to be continuing in that role as their TV guy, and he will be the radio guy this summer of the Indiana Fever. And so, congratulations to him. He's a big loss. I don't know what next winter will hold, whether he will still be doing some of the Mastodons games or what. I know he's being torn right now because he's going to be relocating to Indianapolis, which does mean we will not have him with Tin Caps baseball. So it'll be a lot of Jaden Taylor on the radio throughout this summer. Jaden is a guy who certainly can handle it. And, the bar is set so high with Tin Cap's #2 broadcasters. But John Nolan adds his name to the list of 260 to the show / broadcasters edition.
Very
Because,
cool.
because I mean, Mike Cousins, Mike Monaco, Jack McMullen, who is now the voice of the Miami Marlins. I mean, we could sit here and almost do an entire show on just the success of some of the Tin Caps broadcasters, and many of them came in as a #2 broadcaster and jumped into a top #1 job. I mean, Mike Monaco, I've watched him doing NHL playoffs. He's done the College World Series. He's done the Little League World Series. I mean, the guy has had tremendous opportunities. But anyway, congratulations to John Nolan on his big job assignment or new gig that he's got. We're very proud of you here in the fort, and we know you'll do a great job.
Yes, sir. Congrats, John.
Now make sure to tell your bosses that the games need to be streamed so we can listen. I tuned in to listen. I went on the stream. I wanted to check out his first broadcast. I thought his first broadcast was today, and I check out the stream, and I'm getting some stupid international lacrosse broadcast because I think the Fever were being blacked out on the stream.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh,
Gotta pay that WNBA money, Brett.
so anyway, but I'm happy for John. He and I have kind of shared a lot of the jobs, and so sometimes he's filled in for me. I filled in for him. It's kind of been a nice little arrangement. So now I got to suck up to somebody else to be able to get a gig in this town. All
You'll
right,
figure it
Adam.
out.
We got
All
to
right.
wrap it up, man. We got to wrap it up. Once again, we appreciate everybody. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost you anything. It's not painful. We need your support. We got to get this thing to grow. If you want it to continue, we're going to be continuing to covering your local sports. People want the Fort Wayne sports. That's what they've told us. I had more people this week. What happened to the show? I listened to everything. And so many people that listened to the show, and I don't think anybody realized how many people counted on us each day to get them up to date with what's happening with the sports that really matter to them. I mean, that's the key is people really care about sports in their community. They don't care about the latest with the Lakers, or they don't care about the latest with Shedeur Sanders. They can catch up on that, open up an article, look it up on Twitter. What they care about is hearing on the radio while they're driving home, is there anything breaking out of Indiana University? Is there anything breaking out of Purdue University? Is there anything breaking out of Notre Dame University, or University of Notre Dame? I'm sorry. Irish fans. Purdue, Fort Wayne, high school sports, Comets, Tin Caps, Colts, Pacers. We had it all covered every single day. And so for us to continue, we need to know that we've got your support. It also shows YouTube that we have the support of our community. So please hit that subscribe button and the thumbs up every time we post a video. All right, what's next for you, my man?
Gonna be board hopping the Tin Caps game tonight. Hope to make it 6 in a row.
I do believe at this point I'm on TV, but who knows?
We'll find out. We'll figure it out.
everything kind of blew up a couple of days ago, and all of a sudden now John's not in the picture, and we got to
We're not
figure out.
pointing names. We're not naming
Well, no,
names.
it's not his fault. I mean, what I'm saying though is, I've primarily done TV with John, so Jaden now is having to jump around. I don't even know who the boss is right now, but Jaden has done a terrific job kind of picking up things this week, and John couldn't help it. I mean, he got the gig, and the next thing you know, he's got to be in Indianapolis preparing for the opening weekend. And officially, by the way, I will just throw this in. May 15th is what I'm hearing will be his final broadcast of Tin Caps baseball. So I hope everybody
Good to
plans
know.
to tune in on May 15th and watch John's final broadcast. I think that will be actually on TV. You can listen as much as possible to 1380 The Fan all the other times, but do have to mention that. All right, have a great weekend. Thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate you. If you got any comments, make sure you throw the comments in, and we will talk to you again soon.